I am so excited to have on the podcast today Emily Barnitz, the founder of Zoe Learning House, a hybrid homeschool program in New Orleans, Louisiana, that
Mhm.
I had the privilege to visit in person in November in a microschool tour that I led with Stand Together Trust, kind of coinciding with the annual Excellence in Education Summit that was being held in New Orleans. So it was
Mhm.
thrilling to be able to meet Emily in person and see Zoe Learning House up close. Emily is a certified teacher with a master's degree from Teachers College, Columbia University, who taught for 15 years in both public and private schools before becoming an education entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Emily was homeschooled for her K to 12 years and appreciated sort of personalization and flexibility of the homeschooling model. And that was something that she brought to Zoe Learning House in her journey to be a founder. Emily opened her program in the fall of 2024 with 10 elementary age students. Today, she just enrolled her 50th student. So, Emily Barnett's, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you so much, Carrie. It's really a joy to be here. And I think that this is something I've been listening to for, I don't know, several months now. And I'm overjoyed to be able to just share our story and to get to talk to you. And it was such an amazing experience to have you come and visit. I I was such a fan, and everyone there. I didn't think that they all knew. I don't know if they all knew who you were, but they were probably just as experienced in their various forms of work as the National Education Summit. But it was such a joy to have you, and we didn't know everything we're doing, as many micro schools were just taking it one step at a time. So thank you for
Yeah.
coming and for having me. It's just wonderful to get to speak with you.
Oh, it was so great to meet you and to visit. And yeah, it was an interesting group that we had on that microschool
Mhm.
tour.
Mhm.
I didn't know most of those folks, most of them were legislators, lawmakers from
Right.
states all across the US. For some, it was their kind of first glimpse into
Mhm.
what a microschool or a hybrid homeschool program is. And I think
Mhm.
that they were wowed. So it's always
Mhm.
great to be able to expose newcomers to this incredible model that's really
Mhm.
taking off as more families seek some of these
Mhm.
personalized, flexible, low cost education options, and more
Mhm.
founders like you build them.
Yes.
So that's what I want to talk about today,
Yes.
Emily, is kind of your journey from conventional classroom teacher to education entrepreneur creating an
Mhm.
innovative learning model. Let's start with your decision to become a teacher. What prompted you to go into education to begin with?
Yes. Well, interestingly, I have grown, like you said, had grown up homeschooled. So I had never actually perceived myself as an educator, as a teacher, because I had very limited experience in a classroom. I never even had I think, a real desk. So, very comfortable way of doing school growing up. And someone suggested I might enjoy being a teacher. So I was like, maybe. So I took my first few education classes, got started, and realized that this was absolutely my calling, something that really resonated with me. And because it came from a very different perspective, I think I just didn't have the same preconceived ideas of teaching. I was very open to learning. I also, when I started my education studies at the University of New Orleans at UNO, um, we we did a lot of field studies and went to different schools, but it was also at the same time of right after Katrina, and the New Orleans school system was literally being rebuilt from the ground up. And so we would have these mixed experiences of stable school settings and then going into settings that were shocking and very concerning. And I remember these moments of, is this what school is like? Because I had a very kind of outsider point of view of what school was, because I really had a different upbringing. And so over the years, I just so my first year I worked in a school that had a garden integration and lots of extracurricular and enrichment as an emphasis at the school. And I was drawn to that because I thought schools should be more holistic. And they had after school clubs that the kids designed, like bike repair and mosaics. And
Mm.
so, but then I quickly came also to see that the system itself, the academic piece, was still the standardization of it was a little, I saw it stifling the creativity of the teachers and the potential of what we could do with our students. And so I had that experience of, look, there are some glimmers of joy and hope and all of that. And then my husband and I met my first year teaching. We moved to China. We lived there for 4 years, and we were part of a creative school that was just getting started out there that was serving primarily um, families who were stepping out of traditional Chinese school systems and looking for an alternative themselves. And so we
Hmm.
didn't have a language for microschool at the time, but I had 6 kindergarteners in Shanghai. And then we grew, and from the first year to the fourth year it did grow very much. From I think we had about 40 kids and grew to now about 300 altogether out there in China. And then my husband and I always say my husband and I because we're both teachers. His name's Joey, and every decision that we've made as teachers has really been a joint choice and a
Mm.
joint effort. And so we came back, we got master's degrees, and we grew our family. And when that happened, we had always had these conversations of what school could look like, and how we really love how this teacher or that school is set up. And um, we would have these, philosophical educational conversations very often. But then when my children were born, my first son was born, I was very aware of how of of that perspective of his experience specifically. And so that just started to raise my questions of what did I want for my own children. And then I was remembering my roots as a homeschooler, which I had for 16 years now. Just kind of, yeah, I grew up homeschooled, but I was just, that was just me. That was just my childhood. Wasn't perfect. It was great. I had a lot of time to play. I remember spending hours and hours just outside barefoot, like just riding my bike and just being a kid. But in the 90s, so that was normal in the 90s, just wandering the neighborhood. Um, so I started to think about what I wanted for my children, and I liked that I had a lot of flexibility. I got my family, get your schoolwork done so you can go outside, uh, freedom of childhood that I had. I was just aware of how it's not really like that for many children today, especially in traditional school settings. And I also was growing increasingly just wondering about methods. Like, do we need to be very heavy on tech, or do we need to, um, you know, have every child in the same age group just moving through the whole system with children who were all born within a few months of each other? I just started to think about it a little differently for my own family. And I really loved the school where I was working, incredible educators, and some of the most incredible people I've ever met are in traditional schools, what we call traditional schools, in the microschool movement. Um, and I have so much respect for them. And I was very grateful as a teacher to work where I was. And because in New Orleans, it's not always a very stable work environment, and it can be hard to be sustainable in many of the schools in New Orleans. So I was in a school that was a healthy school, and I was really grateful for that.
And it was a
And then
public school, Emily?
yeah, a public school. It was a
And
public
what were you teaching?
selective
What?
enrollment school in New Orleans at Arts Integrated School, and is a K through 12 school,
And
and
what
is
were
a
you
very
teaching?
I was teaching third grade, and during my time at that school, which was my most recent place where I worked before,
Right.
um, founding Zoe Learning House was third grade math and science. And I've also taught reading there. Over the years, I've taught kinder through fifth grade and all the different subjects,
Yeah.
but had my longest stretch in third grade.
Yeah, so you were grateful for that experience. You're working in that traditional environment, and
Mhm.
then what happened to
Yeah,
lead you to say now is the moment for me to exit a conventional classroom and
yeah,
become an entrepreneur?
yeah. Like I said, it was my own children. It was this feeling of I want something different for my own children. And I think that our area needs this too. I believe there are families in our area in New Orleans that are looking for different options and that also the school where I was a selective enrollment, lottery
Mhm.
based type of school. So even those children, it was literally, I would have families come to me and say, it's like winning the lottery. And
Yeah.
I love that for them, but it's also just the reality that there are so many families that are scratching at the door in New Orleans of certain educational institutions because they want so much this a certain option because there aren't as many. So I was coming from it as a parent was my impetus was my children were a few years out from being school aged and I was feeling drawn to have more time with them, but not necessarily fully step back as an educator
Hmm.
and create something that served families that worked with a flexible schedule that was holistic.
Yeah.
And also, if I couldn't get 100% of my time back with my boys, at least I could get half my time back instead of leaving, at 7 o'clock and coming back at 5 p.m. and missing everything in between, which was often the case for my schedule as a teacher in traditional school. Um, I could build something a little different that at least I get half my time back. And it ended up being that I've had so much more time with my family and being able to invest in them, um, but also build something that serves other families too.
It's great. And how old are your kids?
So my first son's 4.5, and I have a 3-year-old as well.
And are
So two little.
they're both in or one or both are in a preschool program that's not connected to Zoe Learning House,
Mhm.
but that's actually co-located in the church
Yes,
environment. Yeah, so they're
yes,
in sort of a separate preschool, but they were still the catalyst for you because you wanted to build something that they would and ultimately be able to attend. So the plan
yes,
is as
yes.
they grow in kindergarten
Hmm.
age and beyond, that
Yes.
they'll be ready to be a part of Zoe.
Yes. Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
very grateful. The building is beautiful, and it just so happened that their early learning center, which is also part-time during the week, is flexible schedule, which we love, caring teachers, um, is on the first floor, and the second floor of their education building is utilized sometimes throughout the year. But actually, they were hoping for something to be started up on the second floor. And so
Yeah. And it's
it
so
ended up being
beautiful.
a perfect fit for our family, but also for the church. And they're happy. And we're so grateful to be able to share space and work alongside a really already lovely community.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location in a church space that you lease. You're not
Mhm.
affiliated with the
Right.
church. You're
Hmm.
renting space from them. And so I wanted to sort of step back a little bit around the timeline because you opened in the fall of 2024.
Yes.
Explain kind of what happened from idea to launch. When did you leave
Yeah.
your job? What was that
Yeah.
like? And what was
Yeah.
that kind of initial pre-launch period like for you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, in the last year where I was working at my public school where I was teaching, I I got the idea to start a micro school, a hybrid micro school to start in November, October, November of that school year. So it was the 2023 school year.
Got it. Yeah.
And I just started looking for podcasts, and maybe I found yours, and then I found Mackenzie Oliver. She has a podcast that for people who are in those founding stages of what is even a microschool and what could your homeschool program or business look like. And so I
Yeah,
just started
teacher let your light
Teacher
shine
Let Your Light
is
Shine.
Mackenzie's incredible podcast. She's
Yeah.
been on the podcast a couple of times and I just love the work
Hmm.
she's doing. So
Yes. Yeah,
shout out to
shout out
her. Yeah.
Mackenzie.
Yeah.
But she's also rebranded as Redream Education. So just as of January. So she
Nice.
was a person in my life as a mentor that I found and just started to study what was happening around the country. And I did a deep dive. I found a school choice article that highlighted programs in every single state. And so I copied and took notes on all these different, okay, they're doing this, they're set up as a hybrid, they're a homeschool collaborative there. And so I just opened and broadened up my understanding of what was already happening, what are these different types of programs. um, and then I just had a lot of questions that I brought to HSLDA. They were very, very helpful. Their group services, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, because we are technically in that umbrella of home-based
Right.
education. And I wanted to know what are the specifics on group homeschooling in Louisiana, which is kind of our category. And I came to find out too that it's not always what the law states, but it's what it's not stating, like what is kind of can be inferred. So I found out about starting from my home. So we actually started out of my home, and what were the guidelines for home-based education with a group. And I made a lot of calls, and anyway, did a lot of research on what could happen in Louisiana. And I came to be very clear that you could have at least 2 days at your home. No one was going to have any issue with that. And then I spoke with the fire marshal, and long story short, everyone should definitely get their own legal counsel. And I know you mentioned that in your book, Joyful Learning, which I love. I'm getting started in it on the first few chapters. But, you know, anyway, so I tried my best to get that counsel as far as researching what could happen in my
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
And then I built the website, which I had no idea how to do, and just self-taught. Everything was, and in the Matrix, I don't know if you've seen the
Yeah.
Matrix, but Neo sits up and he's like, I know Kung Fu. Like he had this download. I sometimes feel like, okay, I don't know that. Now I just have to deep dive and self-teach. Now I know Kung Fu, or now I know how to do a website, or these different things that we have to just, okay, I haven't done that, but I'm going to go ahead and try it. So I spent many long nights just building that, and lived on a lot of coffee and was teaching at the same time. Had two little boys under 2 at the time, or under 3, I guess, at the time. So it was a blur, honestly, and
Yeah.
I didn't know everything, how it was all going to come together. But I ended up waiting to start launching until I was completely done teaching my year of school, because I wanted the families I was working with and the students in the school where I was to know I was fully invested in my time with them and my teaching with them. And so the next day after my school was completed is when I launched the website. And so,
And it's a
uh,
beautiful website,
oh,
zoelearninghouse.com.
yes, Zoe Learning House.
Definitely check it out. Yeah. Okay. So you launched the
So,
website and then what?
yeah, so I just started reaching out to local homeschool groups and sharing and asking if anyone's interested in a hybrid option for their family. And I got a lot of interest, and we just started with 5 boys and 5 girls, 10 kids in my living room on in August 2024. And we ended the year with 13, and then we just enrolled our 50th this year. So
Amazing.
we
18
did
months
experience
in.
a big jump.
Yeah. Five-fold increase in 18 months. Pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
Um, And I love that you started in your living room. And this is something that I know Mackenzie talks about a lot on her podcast too, is just get started and start
yeah,
small, and then worry
yes.
about location and more of a permanent space going
Hmm.
forward. Did that sort of take some of the pressure off for you as starting
Yeah.
close to home? Yeah.
Yes, I started I knew that if I could do something from my home, that would make it very simple to start. And
Mm,
so that was why I did as much as I could, ask as many questions as I could about what I could do within my home or within, public spaces, parks and things like that, that were very low barrier starting point of entry. And I also knew that it was a short term thing. If I was going to start in my home, that wouldn't be our long term plan because I had a little bit of qualms of, welcoming our open house when I had it at our house was an interesting, register and then we'll share the address. And although we did get interest, I think there are a lot of families that aren't necessarily going to sign up for, okay, I don't even know where you are exactly. So I think it just made it better long term for us to have it in an established location that we could easily share our address. And but to get started, definitely it was okay. This can work, and I didn't have to worry about finding the facility. I had enough room in our house for plenty of our small group. We have a small group instructional model, and so we had several areas plus our backyard that would work fine for that. So yeah, it
so
was a
great.
good starting point.
Ah, amazing. So I want to hear a little bit about how you approach curriculum. I know you have K to 4 now, 50
Mhm.
students across kindergarten through fourth grade. You're adding years kind of as you go. So next year
Yeah.
you'll add fifth grade. How are you managing all of those different ages and
Mhm.
the curriculum approach?
Yes. So we take an approach that leans a lot on the Charlotte Mason approach,
Mm,
which I know you highlight that as well in your book, but
yes.
is a more holistic book that leans a lot um, on living beautiful literature. And I was so inspired by this approach that I built as our foundational curriculum guide is hands-on, creative, and inspiring.
Mm,
So we want our children to be able to have this experiential learning. So when we're learning phonics, the core, foundation of reading, for early readers, we have tactile methods that we're using where they're breaking down the words and they're understanding the different parts of each word. When we're doing math, it starts with uh, ab, these concrete materials, so concrete picture, abstract sequence of math, where we're exploring concepts through physical objects and hands-on learning before we get to then pictures and then abstract numbers. And then in the same way for our sciences and our social studies, we want to make it an inspiring experience. So we want to broaden our students' understanding of the world, show them what is all so good and beautiful to learn about in the world. We integrate gardening, lots of outdoor time, lots of just play. We want to make sure our children every day get 1 to 2 hours outside and cycles of guided learning in a small group and then extended time outdoors. Um, we just find that we have a lot of happy kids and a lot of happy
hmm
teachers. And so I think that's our overall approach is that we are experiencing our learning. It's a real experience for our children that they're engaged in. It's also creative. We love to integrate the arts. If we're learning about we're studying marine biology this term. We're also integrating printmaking and learning how to create prints and the process. And I am educating myself too about the process as I teach it to our students. But learning different art forms that also can relate to the topics that we're studying and then inspiring them with a beautiful we're also a Christian program, so we do integrate character building. We integrate simple daily prayers and scripture focuses. And so we really just think about the word Zoe means life. It means abundant life. And we want our children to have an abundant life. We want their life to be full and enriching. We want our families to feel that when they drop their children off, they know they're going to be inspired. They're going to be cared for. They're going to be joyful. They're going to have this experience that is enriching them. Of course, academically, this is part of what we do, or education, but it's not just education or academics at all costs. We think about the whole child, and so that's our approach: is holistic and thoughtfully building out curriculum that touches on hands-on, creative, and inspiring learning.
Amazing. Yeah,
Mhm.
and you have multiple enrollment options. Again,
Mhm.
sort of one of the key features of the microschooling movement, the hybrid homeschool movement, is sort of
Mhm.
flexibility and
Yes.
customization. The tuition is $4,200 a year for the 3 day a week enrollment option, but you also are adding in 4 and 5 day options. You have, lower enrollment or 1 or 2 day options. And that must create, really great opportunities for families to figure out what
Mhm.
is right for them. What is your sense of percentage of students?
Mhm.
How often are they coming? Like, what percentage are coming
Yes.
3 days? What do you think when you add the
Yes.
5 day option? What is that going to look
Yes.
like?
Yeah, that's a really good question because we're looking at it, we're seeing what our families are hoping for and looking
Yeah.
for. So our current programs are we started with more children enrolled in the 2 day program, which was also where we started the year before, was just a 2 day option. And then we added a day of enrichment. So but I actually have had a lot of movement throughout this first semester. And so I have a third of our families in the 3 day, third of our families in the 2 day, and a third of our families in the 1 day, almost exactly split. Um, and I had some families who are wanting to add on their 3 day, switching from 2 day. And so I think that the options are really a big part of empowering families to
Yeah.
find the balanced schedule that helps their family thrive. And when a family feels like their schedule is um, something they have choice over, they don't feel like at the will and the whims of this flurry of busyness and let's get out the door and we have to be there at this time because the system says so, but they actually can curate and design a schedule that works best for them. And we do start at 10. We have a later start. 10 to 3 is our program hours. We have an early option for our families. We have a few families who come to us at 8:30. But I have many families that say, we have the most lovely mornings together. We just
Mm,
aren't in a rush. And
right.
it is refreshing. I mean, if you think about a morning where you aren't, any morning where you're not, you don't have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock, or some schools in our area 7:37. When you don't have to be there at that time, just the feeling in your home is so
Hmm.
much more calm, at least for us. This is how it is for us too. Um, and so we just thought about what families need. And we really believe that when families have choice and options, that's an empowering thing and a good thing for them.
Yeah. And you're also a registered provider for the LA Gator
Mhm.
Scholarship, one of the new school choice programs in Louisiana that
Mhm.
enables education funding to follow students to their preferred
Mhm.
learning environment. Many of your students qualified and applied for the LA Gator Scholarship
Yes.
last year, but none received it due to lack of
Right.
funding. There were nearly
Yeah.
40,000 students statewide who applied for the scholarship, but only 6,000 scholarships were awarded due to budget
Mhm.
limitations. So clearly, huge demand for these school choice programs.
Yes.
But you feel like that is something that your families are interested in and that would be helpful.
Yes, I was so excited that there was this option coming out. I'm aware of different states that have variations on their own educational savings account.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled that this would be an option. You don't have to, it's not a requirement. We have some homeschool families who are not interested in participating,
Yeah.
and that is fine. They can also um, there's no pressure to do that. So, but we do have many families who are open to learning more about the LA Gator, and I was thrilled to be able to be for us to be able to become a service provider. And so we were very hopeful, and it was definitely a disappointment that we didn't have a single family receive it, but it was a statewide, reality that the
Yeah.
budget was very limited. And so we do have many families who are open to it. It would not be a requirement, but with 50 children here, I know that there are families who are very interested in we have a mixed income. We have families who are from all different brackets of income, and it does make for our lower income or not, but it does make this type of option of private education very much more accessible to families who just maybe can't afford it. We try to be flexible. So we have a 2-day, a 1-day that could become much more accessible. I know you talk a lot about access, and that this is the alligator in Louisiana can provide access to many families who are looking and are really, really hungry for something different for their family. And so um, we're
Yeah.
hoping it to continue to grow. We'd love for more funding to get there, but we're also just kind of bootstrapping it. And our families are willing to just partner with us and really make those sacrifices to make it work for them.
Yeah, and they are because your enrollment continues to grow. You said you just welcomed your 50th student. I think when I visited in November, you were at just over 40. So even
Mhm.
in just a couple months, you've also
Yeah.
seen tremendous growth and certainly, again, that fivefold increase since you started in August of 2024. What
Mhm.
is attracting families to Zoe Learning House and what environments are students coming from? Are they mostly
Mhm.
people who've been homeschooling, or are some
Mhm.
of them coming from conventional classrooms?
Yes, we have about half of our families are coming from traditional homeschooling. So already, in that homeschooling world, but primarily led by their parent at home. And the families are looking for some more balance or structure or a schedule that works better for their family in the week. And then we have about half of our students coming from public and private schools, from more traditional settings. And many of them are the ones who are coming from traditional schools. Many of them are disheartened by a setting that was not healthy for their child. I have children who have a couple who have experienced bullying, or whose teacher is so stressed that they're overwhelmed. Their own classroom settings feel heavy for the child and stressful. Or maybe the school day was just too long. A 5-day week was a 5-day, 7 or 8 hours a day was not healthy for their child, and their child was dreading school. And then we have some who are coming from traditional schools who the family just wants more time together and doesn't feel the need to have their child's week mirror a 40-hour work week, and they want it to feel more child-centered and developmentally appropriate. So we really do take we have families from both sides of the education spectrum, as far as full homeschooling independently, and then very traditional settings. It's about half and half.
And how are families I mean, wait, how is this growth happening? Is
Mhm.
this word of mouth? Are you advertising?
Mhm.
Where are these families
Yeah,
coming from?
yeah. So one thing that helped was the Vela grant. So there's Vela Education, and I know you
Yes.
partner with them very closely. They have
Yeah.
been such an encouragement in our journey, and we were able to and blessed to receive a $10,000 micro grant, like a startup grant for micro schools that just helps you, use it for whatever can help your program and your micro school. So we actually used a big chunk of that for SEO, which I didn't know what that was at the time, but it was
Yeah.
search engine optimization. And so that gave us a chance to be findable to someone who's finding us on Google or finding us just through a search engine. And that was one way that we're able to just, yeah, be found for families who are looking for something like what we offer. And then our number one is our current families referring others. They're very
Mhm.
happy with our program. We had, for our first year, every child returned except for one who moved away. And so, oh, and we did have one who moved into school, but their sibling came and joined us. So, all that to say is that I think that word of mouth is a big part of what we're doing. And then also making us findable was not an investment we were financially ready to do, to
Mhm.
set up as such a small program. But when we became findable, I do have lots of people finding us from just a search engine search.
Amazing. Oh, so
Mhm.
exciting. And so what's next? I mean, there's been this breathtaking growth for you. I know you're adding grade levels each year. How do you see sort of the next 2 to 3 years playing out for you
Mhm.
in terms of grades and enrollment numbers and location? Do you have enough space to grow where you are? All of that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it really is an interesting day by day, year by year process, but we are hoping to continue to grow with our students. So we're going to be going K5 in the fall this upcoming year. And I had a little girl tell me yesterday, she says, "Thank you for opening fifth grade, Miss Emily." And I was like, "What?" I could tell they had talked about it as a family. She said, "My family didn't know what we were going to do next year. And we're so glad." And I had told them, but I think it was the reassurance seeing it, on our newsletter and in our email that they were wanting me to know they're so grateful to be able to stay with us. So we don't want to disappoint. We want to stay with our families as long as they'll have us.
Mhm.
As we grow, we're really trying to figure out middle school and high school, what that would even look like. And it probably would look a lot different and maybe be a smaller cohort of children,
Mhm.
but we're very flexible with that. So, but 2 to 3 years, we're growing to have a 4-day option and a 5-day option in the fall. And so I do think that will open up just more families whose schedules weren't really workable with a 2-day option or 3-day. And so hopefully we'll have some families that I do know many who have reached out to me who are looking for that. And so we'll see what we have now is the equivalent of two classes. We do a co-teaching model, so the teachers are working very closely with each other. But we have about two classes of like K1 pod and a second through fourth grade pod right now, and with two teachers each. And so what we are anticipating is to just have one more class with that similar framework of another pod of students. Those will be our fourth and fifth graders. So we'll have K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and two teachers with each in our co-teaching model. And then, of course, we have children who may need services that are not technically within either of those ranges. And so we have children who are looking and needing something above what we would call grade level and some lower. So we're very flexible
Mhm.
with our groupings. So as far as 2 to 3 years, we're going to take it one year, this one, and see how how the program can stabilize. I really want to be able to um, provide quality over quantity. It's
Mhm.
really important that we maintain our small ratios of student to teacher, that we still maintain our environment, our quality learning experiences. And so I don't have numbers per se, but of course, numbers to meet the budget and our anticipated. We're trying to be conservative, but still um, reasonable with what we can accommodate with the three groups of students. And then the following year, I'm hoping this year is a lot of piloting and figuring out how we serve our 4-day and 5-day students. And then the following year to really fine tune that, which is how it happened for our first year. And we're now in our second with our 2-day option. We're making it more streamlined and having it be more understandable for not just me in my head, but to be something that our families understand and they can follow as far as our learning plans with our hybrid options, and then our teachers to understand. I want to really enrich and provide training for them so that it is just a broader reach of what we're doing, and our team feels empowered for that.
Incredible. How many teachers do you have right now, Emily?
So we have 6 teachers right now, and
Plus you?
yes, yes. One of them, okay, so 5 plus me, and then we have one who often subs with us, who is very much like a teacher. So yeah, so every day we have at least 3 educators. On our hybrid days, we have 4 or 5, and then our ratios are about 8 to 1 for children to teacher.
And are
Mhm.
these teachers folks who've been in conventional classrooms? What is their background?
Yes, our teachers come from so many different enriching backgrounds. One of them was in traditional schools, but in a garden-based
Hmm.
setting. Actually, the same network of schools where I started in 2011 was where she worked for many years. She's a registered dietitian and nutritionist, as well as a master gardener. So she comes from a very holistic type of learning setting, and then also as a parent wanted to homeschool when her child was school aged, and so found us because those were things that we shared on our website that we value too. So I was not sure how to integrate outdoor learning and nature-based learning because I'm very much a novice. My I love to be outside, but I couldn't tell you the name of every single plant outside. And to be able to find people who have that knowledge has been such a blessing. And then we have folks on our team from corporate, from training and management background, but also coaching and understanding how to help make the system work, and our organization of the day has been helpful for some of our team members, being that we have a teacher who's a retired teacher who loves, she says, I was always that teacher that took my class outside. And she comes from 30 years of teaching, and we're so
Wow.
grateful to have her on the team. She um, loves just making it more holistic and arts integration. And then one of our younger teachers, she got started. She hadn't actually planned to be a teacher, but found her way into a teaching job and found her calling. And it was in a Charlotte Mason school. And so
Mm.
her only teaching experience is in a very different approach than traditional school. And she has brought so much richness to our program because she has that experience. And so all and some of them, a couple of our teachers, or our sub and our other teacher, are homeschool educators and have worked with their own families and also other people's families in a more of a family-based learning settings. And I just think it's been such a beautiful thing to watch our team come together, where we each bring a different experience, but share those same values of providing the best, most caring environment we can for our children, that cares for them as a whole person, that gives our students that confidence to be in an instructional setting where it's just the right fit for them.
Yeah.
And then opportunities to play and to learn and to be in a community together as uh, so we have shared values, and we have a very diverse and eclectic background as far as our experience for teachers.
So great.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just from visiting, I mean, you can tell not only are the students joyful, but the teachers are joyful.
Mhm.
They really love to be there too. And then that's sort of the magic of this microschooling movement
Yes.
is happy parents, happy teachers, happy students
Mhm.
who are
Yes.
also thriving academically, socially, emotionally, and so forth. So, really, really exciting to see what's happening for
Mhm.
you at Zoe Learning House. And
Mhm.
hopefully, others can be inspired by your story, Emily. What advice would
Mhm.
you give to someone listening or watching who is inspired by your story and
Mhm.
is considering opening up their own hybrid homeschool program or microschool, what entrepreneurial advice would you give?
Yeah. Yes, I think it may sound cliche, but know your why. Really dig down into why do you want this? And what is it that you truly see as a need that you know you can meet? That you, I think that when a program is birthed out of a true passion from the founder, it's a beautiful thing. And families find that and they're just so drawn to it because we have an opportunity as educators to create something that is uniquely our own, but also serves our families. And so if we can really have that focused time to build why you're doing this, what is your vision? What do you believe you can bring that doesn't exist yet? And that will be your anchor because it is a rocky road. It's a beautiful road. There's going to be so many interesting and unexpected twists and turns, like any adventure. Um, and if you know why you're doing it, maybe you don't know all the details of how it's all going to come together, but that will be an anchor for you. So getting started is there's a lot of logistics and there's wonderful resources out there. And there's just going to be 100 different options because there's so many different expressions of microschooling, and that can feel very overwhelming. It can be like, what am I going to do? And am I on the right track? So if we really center our why and understand the uniqueness of who we are and what we bring as educators, that will have this beautiful ripple effect, I believe, for those founders who are in those beginning stages.
I love it. Well, I am sure that you have inspired many others to take their own entrepreneurial leaps and reap the amazing benefits, personally, professionally from that journey. So again, the
Mhm,
website is
mhm,
zoelearninghouse.com. You're also on
mhm.
Instagram and Facebook at
Mhm.
Zoe Learning House. Emily, it's
Yes.
just been so lovely to talk with you. I'm thrilled by your success and the impact that you're having in your community and look forward to staying in touch. So thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for your time. And I'm so grateful we got to speak with each other.